That North Ossetia has begun to ease. Some of those who had arrived following the start of the conflict have now been moved to other regions of Russia, and people have started to return home from temporary camps. RT's correspondent Madina Kochanova reports.
The flow of refugees from the devastated region of South Ossetia to North Ossetia has decreased quite significantly over the last 24 hours. We can now say that only some people are still crossing the border to North Ossetia, but the main flow of refugees has already been relocated to different regions of southern Russia. Meanwhile, the number of refugees has stopped 34,000 civilians, and according to the latest information under Russia's health ministry, almost 5,500 civilians are right now relocated to different regions of southern Russia. Here I'm talking about Stavropol region, Rostov region, as well as the Republic of Kabardino-Balkaria. They will stay in temporary settlements for refugees in sanatoriums as well as in schools and in other places. Some refugees want to go back. They're expressing their willingness to go back to the devastated region of South Ossetia, to their lost homes, and try to restore those homes in the city of Tskhinvali as well as in neighboring villages. But still, the situation here is quite complicated. For years, many people of these regions, and here I'm talking about Georgia, South Ossetia as well as North Ossetia, have been living very close to each other. Many families are right now cut off from their relatives across the border. We managed to visit several villages that are situated in the mountains, very close to the border between Georgia and North Ossetia. And these villages are unique in their kind because many families that are living over there represent mixed marriages. They represent both sides, Ossetian and Georgian. They told us that they were hoping that the tense relationship between the two regions would ease and they would be able to go and visit their relatives across the border. Now they told us that they lost their hopes, and the only thing that they kept asking us, where should they go if they are half Ossetian or Georgian?
As the smoke of conflict clears, the human and economic cost of the war is being counted. But in the confusion of claim and counterclaim, some foreign media suggested that Russian forces heavily bombed the Georgian town of Gori. RT's Paul Sear is on the ground there and found a different story. You may find some of the pictures upsetting.
There are some pictures which have become definitive for news coverage from conflict-ravaged areas. A generation of journalists built their careers saying the exotic names of Sarajevo, Grozny, Kigali. These names are now synonymous with mass destruction and the horrors of war. But this week, some journalists tried to add another name to the list, Gori.
There have been airstrikes by Russian warplanes, particularly in a town just outside of Tbilisi, the capital, a town called Gori, where officials say an apartment block was hit by Russian bombs carried by Russian warplanes. At least 60 people there were killed, according to the Georgian authorities.
CNN was backed up by the claims of the Georgian government.
I've seen firsthand today with my own eyes how the two Russian jet planes came very low on a marketplace, a very busy marketplace in a small town in the middle of Georgia that had nothing to do with the conflict area. It's far from that conflict area, and deliberately dropped 500 kilograms bombs on civilian population. Well, I happened to be not far from there. I saw it with my own eyes.
But this is Gori today, a ghost town where Stalin's statue ironically towers over the main square. Yes, there is glass on the ground and damaged cars. But look at these pictures and judge for yourself. In a different conflict, the bombing of a marketplace determined how that conflict would end. In the Bosnian War, when Sarajevo market exploded, dozens of people were killed. The pictures shown on television galvanized America into entering the war. This week, claims suggested that the same had happened in Gori.
The talk is about a massive bombing by Russian planes of the civilian infrastructure. In the city of Gori, bombs were dropped on the market and a stadium.
This is the picture of the market of Gori now. Yes, it's empty, but it's certainly not destroyed. And eyewitnesses confirm as much.
Nothing happened. The Russian tanks stayed on the bridge. They dropped one bomb near here, but not in the marketplace. People were scared and ran away. But today the Russian army is here. There's no fighting.
The Russian army is inside Gori, controlling the two entrances in and out of the city. People say they feel safer because the Russian soldiers protect them from the vandalism of local gangs.
Nothing happened here. We heard that the Russians are coming and people ran away and left everything behind. There was no war in Gori.
If there is one city that can be added to the pages of history for being ravaged by war, it's Tskhinvali, the capital of South Ossetia, but certainly not Gori. The fighting's now moved to a different front, from the ground to the media. Both sides accuse the other, and while it's likely we'll never know exactly what happened here in Gori, one thing is certain: the city is not destroyed, nowhere even close to it. OSSETIA, RT, Gori.
The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has criticised media coverage of the conflict, saying some viewers have been misled about the events.
Reconnaissance troops have detected enormous amounts of weapons, military hardware, some 15 tanks, APCs, a lot of ammunition and explosives, not to mention small arms. The same amount of weapons was found near the city of Sinaki. This easy-to-access arsenal near Gori was abandoned by the Georgians and not guarded. The weapons were ready for use, including the tanks. It would have been mad to turn a blind eye to that and pass by the munitions. Anyone with bad intentions, a madman, could have jumped in a tank and started shooting. The Russian military were neutralizing this arsenal. So these tanks were driven away from Gori. The march was spotted, and CNN started trumpeting this across the world as breaking news. Russian tanks on the move to Tbilisi.
Well, you can watch the full interview given by the Russian Foreign Minister later this hour here on RT and on our website www.russiatoday.com. Mary Dziedzewski of the UK's independent newspaper believes that some Western media outlets have taken a narrow view of events.
There were a lot of Western media outlets that were pretty sure that Russia was going to conform to type in their view, and that it was going to invade Georgia, to mount an all-out invasion. And I think the idea that Russia was actually maybe retreating and was going to hand over some of the gains that it seemed to have made, that was almost beyond understanding. Everybody had geared up for a fight, and somehow the fight seemed to have been stopped. The line was crossed in the first instance by the Georgians. That's what changed things, and I tended to feel that wasn't emphasised enough.
The military situation in South Ossetia and Georgia is unchanged, according to the deputy head of the Russian General Staff, Anatoly Nogovitsyn. At his daily briefing, he outlined the progress of humanitarian aid distribution in South Ossetia. He stressed the pressing need for rebuilding the infrastructure in Tskhinvali. He also denied allegations made by Human Rights Watch that the Russian military used cluster bombs during the conflict.
We never use cluster bombs in the conflict zone, especially since we don't have any need to do so. I suppose all the media lies have run out by now.
US Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice has arrived in Tbilisi with a ceasefire plan proposed by Russia and France 2 days ago. She wants Georgia to sign the document, which is expected to cement the fragile peace after the 5-day conflict in its breakaway region of South Ossetia. Rice hopes that she'll achieve her goal and make the Georgians seal the deal that would see Russian combat forces leave. The plan requires both the Georgian and Russian troops to withdraw to their initial positions prior to combat. Her comments have been echoed by US President George Bush, who also demanded Russia get out of Georgia and accused the country of bullying and intimidation. The president says Russia has damaged its relations with other countries. Yet not all reaction has been that critical of Russia. The Czech President Václav Klaus has criticised his colleagues from Poland and the Baltic states for lambasting Russia's actions in South Ossetia. The Czech leader says he won't follow the line, portraying Russia as bad and Georgia as good. He dismissed the comparison of recent events with the so-called Prague Spring, when the Soviet tanks entered Czechoslovakia. Klaus says world recognition of Kosovo influenced the conflict in Georgia. The Czech president also called on all sides to settle the conflict as soon as possible.